Contours and regions. So we use this sketch for the relations. We can also take a quick look at contours and regions. So I'm going to go back in and edit the sketch to return into an existing sketch. We right click and go to the upper left, and we'll see the tooltip go to edit sketch. The other thing would be to left click, make sure the sketch is selected, and then when I go back to sketch, it's going to enter. If I don't see the confirmation corner, I see all of the dimensions, then I've probably opened up another sketch and there will be a second item there. Alright, so with the shaded sketch contours open, if that is, I think the current install shows that up on the command manager. If it doesn't, then we go into the customization and we have to add it. So if I customize and then go look for the commands, and not exactly sure where that one was. So as usual, we'll have to hunt through and find it, and then drag it out to the side. The other thing would be to come up to the let's see, where are the commands? Yeah, we're in the commands. So shaded, and when I see the shaded sketch contours, then I can left click, drag it out to the command manager, and that's probably the easier way. If we're using something enough, just typing it in, and even though I missed the S on the front, it still was able to find it. So if that's turned off, we're not going to see those shaded areas, but this gives you a visual representation of your contours and regions. All right, so one of the first things we'll notice is that we have a couple different kind of gradients, darknesses of the shade. So a lighter gray and then a darker gray where they overlap. So when we talk about contours and regions, the contour is going to be the perimeter of our shape. So rectangular, circular, the arc segment, and when we pick a contour, it will, for our extrusion and the creation of the feature, it will pick everything inside. If we go to regions, and if I was trying to make a shape that embodied all of this shape, then I would need to pick the 3 contours, or I would have to trim out the 2 arc segments, which could cause relations to break or for the sketch to go back to underdefined. And since it isn't really necessary, we will be able to pick the regions to make the exact same shape without having to deal with those other possibilities. So if I pick interior, interior, and interior, it will pick that whole shape. Now when we go to the kind of a doubly nested, so looking at, we'll launch the feature here in a minute, but with this overlapping, if I had a tail on any of the geometry, maybe this line extended a little bit past, that would be a condition for a contour and region to show up. If it's just an enclosed shape, then it will be a standard extrude. We won't have to do any additional selecting. And so the addition of the tail says, well, there's some other piece of geometry there, or I have an overlap. There's some condition that is making it go to that additional selection. The other thing that would happen is if this was a little bit short, maybe I had a very small gap, then that would cause it to go to a thin feature, which is going to act sort of like sheet metal. It's going to have a wall thickness, it's going to let you put radiuses on it, but it's going to have no interior. And then we would set to the inside or to the outside for the wall thickness. So both of those conditions mean we go back into the sketch and we see what's going on. And a doubly nested, we could go to the outside contour and it would fill everything in the middle. If I picked a region and a region, then I would end up with 2 solid bodies. If your solid bodies folder is not active, then when we create that second body, it will automatically become active and you'll be able to see body 1, body 2. And as we go through that that process of creating the solid bodies, there's a couple other conditions that apply. So since we have the tangency, if I were to pick region and region, this is still technically a disjointed body. Since these circles touch at only one point, then these can't be a single body. It would be body 1, body 2, and the intersection would still be there. It would be controlled by the sketch, or I said intersection. The point where they overlap would still be there, but we don't have enough of an intersection to make it one complete body, or like in this case, give us the option for an overlap or a combined region to work with. So same in this case, even without all of the extra geometry, solid body, or we add additional geometry that will tie it together. If we just do the little line segments and pick those two items, that will automatically go into a thin feature as well, and we'll get an L shape. Alright, so let's go into the feature, and I'm going to tell this to extrude. This works with both extrude boss and extrude cut. Because I have all of this chaos going on, it automatically goes into selected contours, and when I pick, it's going to bring out just that shape with a little piece missing. So that becomes a region. When I add the next piece, that's also a region, but there is a shape, and because those come to a point and those come to a point, they're basically zero thickness geometry. I would expect to have solid body 1 and solid body 2. So let's check that real quick. Alright, so 2 solid bodies. Alright, and then if I see the 2 solid bodies and say, it really isn't what I wanted, I can right click, and when I'm at the feature level, the upper left will be Edit Feature. I can make sure that the selected contours is highlighted in blue, and then I don't want to pick out here. I want to come back to the sketch plane and pick in that geometry, and that will make the continuous shape, and then I can go ahead and accept it, and that will, instead of having 2 solid bodies, will now be 1 solid body. And if we come back and edit the feature one more time, right clicking will clear all selections. Let's take a look at what happens in this case. So since I have that tangency, it also has the zero thickness geometry. It automatically goes to 2 bodies, but I don't have any common geometry that is going to let those become 1 solid body. And if it's not necessary, then we can may work. So one of the things I might do is put a small fillet in there, and then that would create 2 more regions and possibly allow it to complete. Alright, so contours then. Regions are probably the most apparent, because you're going to see all those little flashing colors and everything. When we hover over a circumference, the perimeter of our rectangle, then we're picking a contour. And then regardless of the overlap, it's going to pick all of that geometry and ignore the interior regions. So if I were to pick multiples, I would have all of the same depth. And if I wanted these to be different depths for whatever reason, and go back to isometric, I lost my flip-flopped on me. If I wanted these to be at different levels, then I would have to put them in different sketches. So I'm going to right click and delete that one, and then when I accept, that's going to give me the 2 solid bodies and hide the sketch. If I come back to the sketch, select on it, and tell it to do another extrude, I'm going to get the sketch again, and this is going to create a shared sketch. So in this case, and also if I wanted that nested geometry, I could have the 2 contours, and then I could come back and pick the 2 regions and the 2 contour and a contour, and then instead of 8, let's go 5. And so I can reuse that sketch geometry and have the different lengths and shapes. I just have to manage the logic of, am I picking contours? Am I picking regions? Am I picking overlapping regions to get the interesting shapes? And if I need multiple depths or various depths for the extrudes or the cuts, then I'm going to have to put those in separate features. So let's do one more and then we'll finish up. So with this, if I wanted to go back and do an extrude cut, I have the sketch picked and it's going to be from this geometry. And the one requirement then is that we already have the sketch geometry in this sketch. So if I pick the contour again, going that way, there's nothing to cut, so I will get a does not intend to cut, does not intersect the model. So I need to reverse the direction. And then if I only wanted a partial, maybe 5 inches, where the first sketch would have made that little fingernail cut all the way through, this allows me to make just a partial. Alright, so you have a lot of options. There's a lot of logic. There's even more in conditions that we can work with, but that will give you hopefully give you an insight on the contours and regions and manipulating your sketch geometry.